welcome to another edition, another episode, another installment, another podcast thingy for you. And this is thingy number 48 of the Casual Movie Club. It's the podcast about movies, hosted by two friends, two pals, who are along a journey together of discussing movies and rating them for your listening pleasure. And those guys are me, John, your good friend, your pal, and of course, Brian. What's up, Brian? How are you, my friend? Hello.
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well, man. It is good to see you again.
Yeah. Good to see you too.
Yeah, and I'm going to go on record to say that I think I speak for the both of us, but we did a great movie today. He's giving me the nod.
Give me the nod.
We, I know we kind of asked this in the beginning, but I'm just going to say I really, really enjoyed the movie we did today. And with the nod, I'm assuming that the same would apply to you?
No.
What?
No, joking, kidding.
Oh my God.
I like it. I promise I like it.
Well, I need a drink after that. Holy shit.
Yeah, we did Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the 1987 classic with Steve Martin, John Candy, written, directed, produced by John Hughes.
John Hughes, the prolific director.
Comedy legend.
The director of famous movies like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Breakfast Club, and Uncle Buck.
16 Candles?
Yep. And interestingly enough, did you notice that Uncle Buck and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles both end the exact same way?
I've never seen Uncle Buck.
Oh, that's a great movie. Great movie. Another John Candy classic. But both movies actually end with a freeze frame of John Candy kind of doing this kind of genuine smile.
Is that's a weird way to end this. I thought that this should, I don't know, I feel like I liked the ending.
Yeah.
I liked how it resolves with Steve Martin finding his heart, kind of having his Ebenezer Scrooge moment, and coming through for John Candy.
Yeah.
But it's just a weird way to end the film, though. Just like that freeze frame. Like, we don't get any, I don't know. I felt like I wanted more resolution.
What more did you need, though? You know, I mean, because, and again, spoiler alert, for those who haven't seen it, pause the podcast right now, go on iTunes, buy the movie. I think I bought it tonight. It was only $10. I think it was $9.99, but buy the movie and watch it, and then continue listening to this podcast, because this is a movie that really should be in your collection. It's probably one of my all-time favorite movies. And by the way, I hope you don't mind, Brian, I just want to take a moment. I want to dedicate this episode to my mother. Because
Absolutely
this was her favorite movie.
Yeah.
Every year we would watch this movie right around this time of year, either before or just after Thanksgiving. But she loved this movie, and I can say that I love this movie. So I want to dedicate this episode of the Casual Movie Club to my mom, who is listening with us from above.
Nice.
And this, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, there's no better Thanksgiving movie than this film. I can't think of, I'm sure I could do some internet research and find some, but if you think of Thanksgiving movies, there's really not a lot that come to mind.
No.
This is the Thanksgiving movie. This is the travel movie.
Yeah.
Even for all major holidays where you have to travel, like, this is the movie that comes to mind. They do pretty much every form of public transportation, save for ferries.
Right, or hitchhiking.
Well,
they kind of do, actually.
They kind of do hitchhike. Yeah, he calls Gus's son, Owen, to come and...
Well, and the guy in the 18-wheeler that drives, and that's...
Yeah, that too, yeah.
We don't know how he got that ride.
Or how he wound up at the Black Eye.
Who had the Black Eye?
John Candy had a little shiner.
Oh, I didn't notice that. When?
Yeah.
During that?
During that sequence, yeah. It looked like he had a little black eye.
Oh, interesting. Well, let's not jump around too much. I want to jump in and kind of go in order, sort of.
Sure, yeah.
Whatnot, but we have to ask this question. It seems to kind of be a staple of the Casual Movie Club, and I think I know the answer, but I got to ask it just so we kind of keep things consistent. Did you like this movie?
I did. I do like this movie. I got to be honest though, haven't seen it very often. Like, I've probably seen it less than 5 times. This might be my 3rd or 4th viewing, actually.
I can say that I've seen it quite a few times. I mean, I know that a few moments ago I mentioned that kind of every year we would watch it. There may have been a year or two where we didn't watch it, but it's a movie that I've watched a lot growing up. I'm 38 years old. I can't say I've seen the movie 38 times, but I've seen it quite a few times. And this is kind of a staple of my movie watching career. My movie watching history. It's one that it's kind of always held a special place to me as a kind of Thanksgiving movie, but also just kind of as a family feel good movie to sort of, kind of make you really cherish the family and the the loved ones that you have.
Yeah. I've really seen this on TV more than anything. I've only had a real sit down watch through one time, and then my other viewings have just been on TV.
Yeah.
So it's been broken up by commercials and stuff like that. But Thanksgiving has really been is getting to be more and more year after year becoming my favorite holiday over Christmas.
Really?
And it's really I think it's mainly because as I'm getting older, I'm seeing it's getting harder and harder to see everyone that I want to see.
Yeah.
And with my friends scattered across the country and my family in several different places across the country now, it's I'm even doing Friendsgiving now, which is a relatively new thing for me. In the past 5 years, I've been having Friendsgivings as well as the traditional Thanksgiving with family.
Yeah.
So and this is really a less stressful holiday because it's really focused around the food rather than the presents and that it's to me the Thanksgiving is more about being with the people you love, being with the people you care about.
Yeah.
Christmas is like that too, but there's a commercialization around it now. There's an unspoken obligation for presents and things like that. Yeah. So I'm as the years go on, I'm leaning more towards Thanksgiving as my most favorite holiday.
I can definitely get on board with that, because this year, I started a new job this year back in April, so it's given me a little bit more freedom to travel a little more because I have the ability to work from home and work remotely. So, I was able to actually get up to New Jersey, where I'm from, to see family and see some friends for Thanksgiving. So, that was not something I was able to do in my previous job. So I was really able to appreciate it a lot more. And now, I have a nephew now. I'm an uncle now. So, I was able to spend some time with him. I mean, he's only 6 weeks or 7 weeks old right now.
Oh, new uncle.
Yeah. I'm a brand new uncle.
Oh, you're going to love it.
Yeah, I do. I love it already. I absolutely love it already. I mean, he's only very young, but, I figured out that kind of the best thing I could do right now from afar, because I live in Texas and he, my nephew lives with my brother and his wonderful wife up in New Jersey. So the best thing I can do is send them the best formula that works for him. So interestingly enough, the formula that the hospital, here's a little useless tangent I'm going to go on.
Okay.
The baby formula that the hospital had him on when they took him home from the hospital, he didn't like. The little one didn't. My nephew did not like, and he had some colic and everything. So he was not tolerating that formula very well. But my sister-in-law actually found a really good formula that worked well for him, and now it seems to have, his colic has kind of gone away. He's been able to, get more sleep and everything, which is great, which also means that my brother and his wife, my sister-in-law, have been able to get more sleep. So I figured, me as the uncle from afar, I will make sure that they are stocked in formula
That's a very uncle
You
thing to
know,
do.
because I figure everybody wins.
Yeah.
My nephew gets to sleep, which is good, but my brother and his wife also get to sleep. So it doesn't get any better.
Yeah, what's better than sleep?
Exactly. What's better than sleep when, during a time in people's lives when they have a newborn, when sleep is a premium, what better than to get as much of that as you can? So, for right now, that's my my main motivation is to keep everybody happy and make sure that my little nephew has the formula that he needs, because everybody wins when he has the formula that he needs. But not to make this whole podcast about him, even though he is a badass and I love him dearly. We do have to talk about the movie.
Let's talk about the movie.
Absolutely.
Where do we start off?
Well, why don't we start off with can we start off with my things to ask Brian?
Yeah, of course.
I've got quite a few, but I might.
It's my favorite segment.
I know, and feel free. By the way, in future episodes, if you ever want to have things to ask John, it's a two-way street.
Yeah, maybe I'll spool that up.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned earlier this movie is a movie about travel. Do you have a really bad travel experience or something that kind of did this movie remind you of any really bad travel experience? Or has it not been as bad as this movie? Or like, what was your worst travel experience?
I don't think anything is as bad as this movie.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm a real big proponent of the go with the flow philosophy.
Yeah.
That Dell subscribes to. So sure. I get annoyed when there's delays and things like that, when things don't go according to plan, sure. Because things happen. Yeah. But I can't help but be annoyed by them.
Sure.
The only real nightmare that stands out to me is trying to go catch a train in Penn Station and in New York City, mm-hmm. and the train being delayed, and the homeless like to take shelter in Penn Station.
Yeah.
And just I've got that kind of face, I guess, that punchable looking face where the homeless like to talk to me and like to accost me whenever possible.
They do that to just about everybody.
I guess, but I was with a large group of people, and I was the one that was singled out. So and this isn't the first time.
Yeah.
And I try to keep a low profile when I'm traveling and when I'm in crowds, because all I want to do is just get to where I need to go. Yep. And get there as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Yep.
Anyway, but those are really the worst experiences that I've had. It's just the delays and just being accosted by the homeless in Penn Station. So
it's not necessarily one particular situation. It was kind of just a few times where you've had to deal with the homeless in Penn Station.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I really get annoyed at airports when things get delayed and the lines take longer than they should.
Oh yeah.
So really it's just the inconvenience of it all. But really beyond that, whatever happens, and you're really at the mercy of the people that are facilitating the flights and the buses and the trains. Right. So I really try to take a step back and just go with the flow.
Yeah, and honestly, I think if both characters, or Steve Martin especially, had kind of resigned himself to that, well, and actually, let me take a step back, because he kind of did. He went with the flow
eventually, but
he went with the flow of just kind of hanging out with Dell, with John Candy, because if he didn't, he probably would have just wound up being stuck at the airport, because I didn't get the sense that their airline was doing anything to help them out, because that was one of the things I wrote down in my notes, that if it were me, I would have just kind of taken whatever voucher the airline would have given, or, the airline would have done something for me. They would have either put me on another flight or, put me up in a hotel or done something for me, because I've paid them money in good faith to have them get me to my destination.
Yes.
So if they couldn't do that, they would be either comping me a hotel room or giving me a place to stay or comping me some other flight or something like that. I would have gone with that flow to let that happen.
Yeah, and I wrote this down several times throughout my notes. Like, I think he would have gotten back faster if he had just waited to take the 8 o'clock flight with his buddy in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, you'll never make the 6.
Never make the 6. He never made the 6. Well, he made
the 6,
made
but the 6 left later.
Yeah. He does all this stuff with taxis, and in the beginning he races Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Dell steals his taxi. He makes it on time, but he's still delayed. So it's just like, at that point, when he looked over and saw the businessman sleeping in the corner, he's like, "Oh, I don't want to do that. I'll go with I'll go with Dell here." Yeah. Every step of the way, I would have waited and taken what the airline will give me, because like you said, I've given them money in good faith,
right?
And their job is to get me to my destination,
right? And the one constant factor here is that we never knew what the airline had offered them. That whole element of it was never mentioned in the movie,
right?
So we didn't know if he was rebooked, if he was on the next flight, if he was on a different flight. We don't know that whole entire side of it. All we know is what he did when he went with John Candy's character and he stuck with Dell.
Right.
John Candy's character. So that's a good segue to my next question that I have for you. If you were Steve Martin's character, if you were Neil Page, would you have been able to make it through the entire movie, or would you have bailed on John Candy's character, Dell? Would you have bailed on him earlier and made way more of an effort to avoid him? Like, would you have lost your shit completely, or do you think you would have made it through to the end knowing what happens in the end of this movie?
I asked myself that a few times, and I can see it shaking out both ways.
Okay.
I'd like to think the one thing that really would be out of character for me was when Neil goes at Dell hard in the first hotel room.
I want to ask you about that too.
He went real hard. I would have toughed it out. I would have asked Dell. I would have handled that differently. I'm like,
what would you have done?
Dude, I'm trying to sleep. Yeah. I know you're trying to clear your sinuses out. I know if you don't clear your sinuses out, you snore, but come on.
Yeah.
You sound ridiculous right now.
Right. Or at least get it out. Get it out of your system so I can go to sleep.
That shower situation, though, dude. Oh, my God.
That was funny.
That was not funny to me.
With the shower turning off and then coming back, or you mean him being left with the tiny towel?
The whole thing.
Because that was
my nightmare is the tiny towel. That's my nightmare.
Him being left with that tiny towel is classic.
Because I have washed myself in sinks before.
Yeah.
Out of necessity. It's a thing that I've done before. I have experience with it, but not being able to dry yourself off after like a full body shower is. I know people who are comfortable air drying, who will not use a towel or will use a towel sparsely, and just let themselves air dry.
Oh, my roommate from college that I spent the most time with, because I had a few different roommates, but the one that I spent the most semesters with, he would air dry himself by swinging his towel around, creating air to dry him off.
Yes.
So his towel would never be wet. He would just fan himself with his towel and dry off that way.
This is interesting.
I never figured out how that worked.
Oh, I mean, physics. I mean, how it works. But I could never do that. I could never do that. I could never do that.
Cheers, man. Cheers.
That one deserves it.
I never did the fanning myself with my towel to dry off. I never figured that out.
I've tried air drying. I can't do it. It's just not comfortable to me. to get a little personal, what I do is I grab the closest towel, still in the shower,
right,
and I towel off completely. Like, I do what I can to get myself as dry as humanly possible, top to bottom, before I step out of the stall,
Yes.
step out of the tub.
Yes, because
That's
when
you
you're
too?
Yeah. When you're behind the curtain, the curtain is made of some kind of thick material that keeps most, 80% of the heat in the shower. So, actually the hotel I was staying at this past weekend had the towels on like a little rack inside the shower, which I always thought they'd get wet from being there, but apparently miraculously they don't. But I would always take the towel off the rack and dry myself off as much as possible. So when I pull the curtain back and, unleash the coldness of the bathroom to me, it wasn't nearly as bad as if I had stepped out of the shower soaking wet.
Oh, see, I pull the curtain back, or I open the door of the stall, or whatever the shower I'm using.
Right.
I let all the bathroom air in,
So
and then I towel
even if
off.
it's cold.
Even if it's cold, especially if it's cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I want that humidity, that moisture to dissipate as I'm toweling off.
Right. And there is a benefit to that, because when you
What a tangent.
yeah, exactly. If you kind of you pull the curtain back and you'll get sort of hit with that cold right away, you know. But then that passes fairly quickly. So you get that shiver of cold, but then as you're drying yourself off, you kind of forget about it, or it's not that big of a deal. And the hotel that I was at this past weekend, I was actually telling my brother this. The bathroom is like 20 degrees colder than the rest of the room.
Yeah.
There was no climate control in the bathroom whatsoever.
That's got to be by design.
I don't know, but I noticed that even after I pulled the curtain back, I get that quick little, the quick little coldness, but then it really didn't really matter after about 15 to 20 seconds of me drying myself off. I was used to it already.
Yeah.
And then when I opened the door to go out to the rest of the room was hotter anyway than the bathroom. So it was like, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
The only annoying factor was going to take a piss at 3 o'clock in the morning. You walk into the bathroom and it's 20 degrees colder, and it's like, fuck,
Yeah.
But, and it winds up waking you up more than you want it to, because you want to get back in bed after taking a piss at 3 a.m. But that's a topic for another podcast.
Yeah.
Probably not even the Casual Movie Club, but that's okay.
So I've lived with people that towel off or that don't towel off at all and just air dry or fan themselves dry. So that's the thing.
I have one more question for you.
Yes.
Did you have anything else you want to say?
I was gonna ask you a question about.
Ooh, I love questions.
How do you feel about the scene in the airplane when they're flying from Chicago to Wichita?
Yeah.
Where Del takes off his shoe and then takes off his sock.
Oh, so inappropriate.
Do you? I see people take their shoes off on airplanes.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Are you one of those people?
No.
Me neither.
Not at all. Because
I don't understand people that take off their shoes.
I agree with you.
Especially when they get up to go to the bathroom.
Right. I mean, and I'm glad you brought that up, because, I'll be completely honest with you. Full disclosure on the Casual Movie Club.
No.
I do not like plane flights longer than about 4 hours. I get kind of stir crazy. I need to get off the plane. I don't like long plane rides. So for me, I really have not had a lot of recent experience with super long plane flights. So I've not had a situation arise where I needed to take my shoes off. However, me being the conscientious person that I am, if I needed to take my shoes off, I'd go to the lavatory, take them off, let my feet breathe, then put my shoes back on and come out.
Right.
That would just be me doing that out of kindness and conscientiousness, if that's a word. Conscientiousness for my fellow passengers, because hey, I'm not perfect. I'm sure sometimes my feet smell worse than they do on regular days, whatever. I would not want to make other people have to smell whatever foot odor I had that day just for me to be comfortable for 5 seconds.
Sure.
It's there's no reason for that.
Yeah, and the type
I would
of,
not do that.
The type of person that I am is I'm a shoes guy. I'm always a shoes guy.
Yep.
I'm very comfortable in shoes at all times, pretty much all hours of the day.
You're actually wearing shoes right now.
I'm wearing shoes right now in the comfort of your own home.
Right, and I'm barefoot.
But even in my own house, sometimes I wear shoes a lot, and I know that there's two groups of people, or shoes in house or no shoes in house.
Right.
And I've always been a person that's been shoes in house type of person.
Okay. By the way,
that's a whole other conversation.
Sure,
but,
and just so you know, you are welcome in my home where the studio is. You are welcome to do as you please.
Oh, well,
so if you'd like to de-shoe, you are welcome to. If not, you are welcome to stay shoed. I am not someone that requires people to take their shoes off, but I want you to be comfortable.
But that's my point, though, is that I'm more comfortable in my shoes, even on planes. Now, I recognize in this day and age, 2019, coming up on 2020, that airports being what they are, airport security being what it is, it's more efficient, it's more expedient to wear sandals.
Yes.
To wear sandals, because you got to take your shoes off in this post 9/11 world, and it's a lot easier to wear sandals through the airport.
Yep.
I don't subscribe to that because I'm not comfortable in sandals unless I'm like on the beach or in my own home.
I agree with you, and also I don't know if you feel this way too. I don't like walking long distances in sandals. You know, like with airports, you know, I can only think of one airport that for a town I lived in for a few years, a number of years ago. I lived in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Fort Wayne Airport in Indiana was a very small airport, as in you walked in to the ticket counter, you know, and then there was a very short walk to security, then a very short walk to the gates. You know, that was the only time where I might have even considered to wear sandals. But now, you know, I live in Austin, Texas, traveling to like Newark, New Jersey, things like that. Those are very big airports that demand a lot of walking.
Yeah.
And I want to wear shoes that I'm comfortable walking in. So they're going to be sneakers almost 100% of the time.
This podcast is primarily about comfort and traveling.
Yeah.
We've barely talked about the movie.
But see, that's okay, because this movie inspires these kinds of conversations.
It does, because I see people take their shoes off and walk around the cabin, go into the lavatory with just socks on, or with just bare feet.
Why would you have bare feet or even just socks going into an airport lavatory? Airplane lavatory. I'm sorry.
I don't understand it.
I don't either.
With their black socks and their the gold-toed socks. I don't understand it.
I want to put this out there to all you folks that are listening to this, you know, all 6 of you, or however many are listening to this. What do you do? And I'm just kidding. I hope there are more than 6 of you listening to this.
There are. I've seen the numbers.
Those 6 of you that are listening to this, please share this with your friends and family. We would love for them to be a part of the Casual Movie Club. What do you guys do? You guys and gals, what do you do on an airplane? Are you a shoes off on the airplane? Are you a shoes on the airplane? Tweet us at Casual Movie Club and hashtag that shoes on a plane. What do you do with your shoes on the plane?
That's a good hashtag.
Shoes on the plane. Shoes on a plane. Yeah. Shoes on the plane or shoes on a plane?
Shoes on a plane.
Shoes on a plane. Okay.
Yeah. What was your last question? Because that was my segue.
Okay.
Or my tangent.
Well, this is one that I was kind of thinking you were going to ask me this, but I'm going to ask you this anyway. If there were a reboot of this movie, who would you think would be the ideal people to play Del Griffith and Neil Page? So who would be playing those two roles? You know, other than John Candy and Steve Martin, who could you see playing those roles?
Steve Martin wasn't as sarcastic. He was funny, but it wasn't. It's not a very joke funny movie.
It's not a comedic role.
No, it's not. I mean, This is a funny movie. It's a comedy.
Right.
But there's not a lot of jokes in this. It's very more situational.
Exactly. I was just going to say that it's a very situational. It's a situational comedy movie. So it's not a ha-ha joke thing. It's more of a, you know, just like you said, situational thing. So who could you see playing the role of Neil Page or Del Griffith?
Yeah, Neil Page, Steve Martin, was very put upon on this movie. He was really just trying to do his thing. I see he was doing Steve Martin things, his patented high-stepped run that he does.
I didn't know that was patented, but
I mean, it's not patented, but it's something that he does in several and a lot of his movies.
yeah.
I could see Steve Carell playing the Steve Martin part.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's got a deadpanness to him now that...
I mean, Steve Carell would be really good. He almost could be too silly, but that could just be his typecast. You know, I mean, if Steve Carell were in this, it would be a challenge for him not to be as silly.
There are several roles where he is not as silly, where I can really see the Neil Page-ness.
Yeah. That's a good. I think Steve Carell's a good cast for that nowadays. What about Neil? What about Del Griffith?
This is wrong, and this is my knee-jerk reaction, and I think it's just because of the body type and the comedic chops. And my initial knee-jerk reaction is John Goodman, but I don't think that's right.
No, I
don't think that's right.
I don't agree.
John Goodman's very funny.
He is.
He's very, very funny.
He's very funny, but I don't think he has that sort of... I don't think he has that warm teddy bear kind of make you feel sorry for him kind of look.
Make you feel sorry for him. Yeah,
the way that John Candy was able to do in this movie. So I'm not completely with you on that.
Yeah, and I wasn't either. It was just that was just like my initial reaction.
Sure.
I want to say Bobby Moynihan, maybe. Bobby Moynihan is
from Saturday Night Live.
From SNL. Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard for me to think of somebody that has like a current actor who's. You got somebody?
Jack Black.
Oh, that's good.
Because I'm thinking about Jack Black's character from School of Rock. You know, he had that kind of, you know, alpha male rocker, like, yeah, role. But then there were also those moments in School of Rock where he was kind of like, where he was being confronted with, hey, you made a mistake, you did something wrong. You know, he had that human side, he had that conscience side. I feel like he could be directed to portray that Neil Page role. Sorry, not Neil Page, the Del Griffith role. You know, I think that side could be brought out of him with good direction.
I wholeheartedly agree, and I want to reinforce that with a role that I saw Jack Black do a couple years ago. I forget the name. The name escapes me, but Jack Black was based on a true story.
Yeah.
Was a funeral director in, I think, East Texas. And he was a funeral director. He befriended the town evil hag.
Okay.
And she was so mean to him, but he was so nice to everybody.
Yeah.
And he wound up killing her. And you couldn't see it happening because this guy was so good and so kind-hearted.
Yeah.
But this woman that he became friends with was just so evil that she drove him to kill her.
Yeah.
And this is a true story. This guy's in jail right now, but Jack Black did this role, and it was so outside of the realm of everything that he'd ever done.
Yeah.
And I really recommend that you watch it.
Cool.
I can't remember the name. It escapes me right now. I'm not going to fact check it, but
yeah, we'll talk about it
talk
offline.
talk about it offline. But
yeah.
Please watch this film. I think you would love it.
Cool. Okay.
But yeah, Jack Black's good.
I think Jack Black is an underrated actor.
I do.
You know,
also.
I think he's. Have
you seen the Jumanjis?
I've not.
You should.
I've heard that actually. A couple of people have told me that
surprisingly
it's
good.
Watching.
Surprisingly good.
Okay.
Especially as like a snobby purist as I am. I was like, oh,
You're a snobby purist, really?
Original Jumanji. You should not reboot that. And they rebooted it, and they did really, really well.
Yeah.
It was a good movie.
I have to. Okay, so I think that's a good way to end that particular segment. I do have something I want to ask you about the movie.
Yeah.
Because this episode has so far been like tangent number 1, tangent number 2, tangent
all
number
over
3.
the place.
Right. What did you think of one of my favorite scenes? But what did you think of the car rental scene when he came back to the counter and dropped the F-bomb 18 times in a 60-second period.
Loved it.
Right after he found that his car wasn't there, and he came back and dropped the F-bomb with that lady. Like, that whole scene is probably my favorite scene in the entire movie, apart from another one. But what did you think of that scene?
It was amazing. It was cathartic. It was satisfying. As somebody
It was so satisfying.
As somebody who's been on the receiving end of a tirade like that before, I always dream of delivering something like that to somebody who deserves it.
Yes.
Because she was sitting there on the phone,
Yeah.
not helping customers. A long line was
Right.
forming behind Steve Martin.
Right.
And she had no care in the world. Oh, gobble, gobble. Fuck you. Fuck you. She
You gonna bring
deserved.
the turkey?
She deserved every F-bomb.
I
And
completely agree.
I loved it. It was cathartic. I loved it. I just wish that he didn't throw away the rental agreement.
Yes.
I just wish he didn't.
However, I took major issue with that because she could have pulled it up on the computer.
She could have.
Because even back then in the late 80s, because this was 1987, they still would have had some kind of computer. I mean, computers were a part of at least businesses and car rentals and everything. They were there since the early 80s.
She might have been in front of a computer. I
think she was.
Maybe. I don't.
We don't fact
specifically
check, but
remember
I'm just going to say she
the
was.
details of that. But
Right.
yeah. Oh man, amazing. What was your other favorite scene?
My other favorite scene is when they get pulled over after the car's on fire, and
Michael
the next
McKean.
morning, and Michael McKean, the cop, looks at them and he says, "Do you feel like this car is safe for road travel?" And John Candy looks at him
Absolutely.
just completely serious. Yes, I do.
Absolutely, I do.
Absolutely, yes, I do.
You have no working gauges, not a one, no
You have-
side mirrors.
Yeah. I mean, it's that I have a section of my notes here that says, there's so many parts of this movie that are quotable and memorable. The whole "you're going the wrong way." Yeah, okay. And they're doing the whole
That's my favorite scene.
oh, that was so funny.
When they go between the two tractor trailers.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a flash of them as skeletons, and then there's a flash of
Oh, yeah.
of Dell as the devil.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I think I was refilling my drink at that time, but
Yeah.
I know the exact point you're mentioning.
The car catches on fire. Come on.
Oh God, yeah,
So good.
The F-bomb tirade. I absolutely love that. And then like I said, the whole "do you think this vehicle is safe to drive?" Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
It's like he's being asked, like, "Is your name Del Griffith?" Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's like matter of fact, like it doesn't faze him in the least.
But that's what you do, though, when a cop pulls you over, and yeah, of course. Like, well, are you kidding? Do you see this car? Of course, it's safe for the road.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, there's so many other parts of this movie where they would not have survived. I think if this weren't a movie, they would not have survived. The
Yeah.
whole being in the back of the pickup truck, going from the Braidwood Inn to the train station. Being when Steve Martin asked Dell,
How many degrees out do you think it is?
I don't know, 1. They'd make it there, and they were, they looked like they were frozen solid. They'd be dead.
Yeah.
They'd easily be dead or in a coma or something. There's no way they'd survive. But also, even when they were in the back of that tractor trailer truck, the freezer tractor trailer truck, they wouldn't have survived being in there for 4 hours.
No.
So I mean, this movie does have its own bit of having to suspend disbelief.
Oh, but it's such a good movie. Yeah.
So good. Let's see. And then let me just see if I have anything else I want to mention. Do you have anything else you want to mention? You want to do numbers?
Back in Baby's Arms was funny. The scene when they woke up in the hotel.
Those aren't pillows.
Those aren't pillows. That was funny.
Did you see that Bears game?
Yeah. Yeah. Only one thing, actually. What's the protocol for when your train breaks down? They sent these people out.
So glad you mentioned that.
Across like a field that looked like it was full of dung.
I call major bullshit on that scene.
Oh yeah.
Because obviously a train company or any transport company, if they are if they have any semblance of,
humanity.
right, they should be focusing on passenger safety as number one. So releasing passengers to like wander through a field of fertilized soil and through a forest to walk a mile to a road, that's ludicrous. What they should have done, or what a smart business would have done, is have a replacement locomotive come and either tow them to the next station, number one. Number two, continue the route, because there weren't that many cars in that train either. It was only like a few cars.
It looked like maybe a dozen at most.
So another locomotive could have towed the entire train and continued the run, or at least taken them to the next station or the previous station stop to let them off in a safer environment. The only reason they would have let the people off in that field like that is if they had to evacuate the train.
For like a fire or like a chemical spill or something.
But there was none of that, because it was basically just from what the movie showed, the locomotive had failed in some capacity, and they just said, hey, we can't move any further, so y'all got to get off. They could have let the people stay on the train and just had another locomotive hitch up from behind or from the front and continue the route, or bring them back to a safer place to disembark.
Yeah, that was really weird.
That was such a stretch for me.
Yeah, but it was still a fun movie.
It was.
That was my only gripe. Yeah. That's really the only other thing in my notes that I have. We pretty much covered everything else.
Yeah. I just want to see if there's anything else I want to mention.
That ending was just not anticlimactic. Just I can't get over it. Just
I liked it though.
I liked it. I just felt like I wanted more. And you asked me earlier, well, what more did you want? What more could there have been? I guess maybe a dinner scene or something, or
but what would
another resolution? Like, go back out on your life on the road, Del. Like, we'll keep in touch. But it was just like, that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. I wanted a dinner scene and a little more of Neil welcoming Del into his family, and the introduction of Del as a family friend. Yeah, you're going to come back and see us every Thanksgiving. Go back on your road, sell your shower curtain rings, but from now on, you're coming. You're hell or high water. You have a home for the holidays.
Yeah,
that's what I wanted.
I don't disagree with you. Mm-hmm. I don't disagree with you, but I also fully support the ending of the movie, because I feel like it left a lot of that sort of, where do we go from here? It kind of left that up to the viewer. Mm-hmm. Your situation of, Del being a member of the family and kind of having a permanent home with the Pages, as being kind of a thing. I kind of feel like that didn't even need to be said. It was kind of implied, because it was
heavily implied.
Everybody who met Del at the very, very end, the stepmom, sorry, not the stepmom, the in-laws and everything. Everybody was welcoming him with open arms and shaking his hand and saying, hi, Del, nice to meet you. Even his wife was like, hello, Mr. Griffith. It was everybody was welcoming and cordial and kind to him. So
I love that.
Me too. And I think it could be easily implied that he had a place there, because he established that he had a place there because he safely brought Neil Page home to his family. So, he was accepted, Del was accepted by Neil's family as someone who cared about Neil and had Neil's best interest in mind to get him home to see his family. So he was kind of welcomed in as part of the family. Would I have liked to see that? Absolutely. I would have loved to see that. But at the same time, I don't mind that I didn't see that.
Yeah, I agree. I do like the leave it to your imagination kind of aspect to it, but I would have preferred. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
and I agree with you, but I would have liked to see it. And this is one of the rare instances where I would have liked to have it spelled out for me.
Sure.
Let's see that conversation take place.
Do you think that would have added anything to the movie, or do you think
Yes.
you think so?
I think it would have made the movie. Well, I mean, it's subjective at this point.
Oh yeah, by all means.
Yeah, it's subjective. But for me, it would have made the movie more powerful. Like, yeah.
What do you guys think? Let us know, and you can hashtag it with PTA ending. Would you have wanted to see more from Neil's family welcoming Del in, or did you feel like kind of what they showed in the movie as it is in its current iteration kind of gave you enough? Did you like that? Tweet us at Casual Movie Club with hashtag PTA ending and let us know what you think. But that being said, do you want to do some numbers?
Let's do the numbers. I think this is going to be a quick one, numbers-wise.
Yeah, absolutely. Numbers being what we love to rate our movies on our website. And by that, I mean, I'm going to give you a quick little rundown here. If you go to casualmovieclub.com and click on the leaderboard, you can see the list of all the movies we have rated thus far on the Casual Movie Club. We have a number of categories that we like to rate on a scale of 1 to 5. Things like the acting. How well did the actors convey the story? How believable were they? The script. How well was the dialogue written? The presentation of the editing and visual effects usage. Were there too many visual effects? Not enough visual effects? Was there copious amounts of green screen? There's also the music and sound element of it. What did your ears think of it? How did you like the sound of it? Were the sound effects good? The score? The music? How were those goodies for your ears? And then, was it unique? Was this something we've seen before? The uniqueness factor, how do we rate that? And also the engagement factor, were we glued to the screen wanting to know what other shenanigans Del Griffith and Neil Page were going to get into, or were we surfing Twitter looking for you guys' tweets at Casual Movie Club? That being the case, Brian, how about I start with my acting score?
Do it.
All right. My acting score, I thought that, honestly, for the time period this came out, this was in 1987, I absolutely loved the acting on there. I thought the casting was great. I thought the chemistry between everybody on there was great. I'm giving the acting a solid 4.5.
4.5. Echoing all those sentiments for myself, it was really good. Like, everybody was really good together. John Candy is incredible.
He really is.
Even the kids in the beginning and the wife, I loved all of it.
I kind of almost wanted to go 5 on this. But I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No. Acting wasn't perfect, though. But for that, I'm going to give my acting a solid 4.
Okay. Cool. And while you're in the hot seat, how about the script? What did you think of the script of this movie?
This is a difficult script to not perfectly rate. But there's just so much to this. Like, it took them 4 or 5 days to get home. And it was just a crazy amount of things that to go wrong. Everything that could go wrong absolutely did. And the happenstance of them all finding each other. The craziest thing to me was the breakup scene at the diner. Del leaves and Neil goes to the rental car. The F-bomb tirade happens. He goes out the taxi cab station, gets punched in the face, and then who rolls up and almost runs him over? By the way, attempted murder.
Yes.
Attempted murder by the taxi cab guy.
Assault. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Battery.
Yeah, assault battery.
Yeah, battery.
Yeah.
Anyway, all that to be said, like, just the fantasticalness of it all working out, that John Candy and Steve Martin traveling together the whole time. That's a really, really big nitpick. Otherwise, the script really fucking well written.
Yeah.
I give the script a solid 4.
Cool. I agree with everything you said because my score is also a 4. I think was it perfect? Not at all. But I think that there's something to be said about, a travel movie or a travel situation, not even a movie, but a situation where everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong. How likely is that to happen? Not necessarily likely, but I'm sticking with a 4 because it's likely, but it's not likely, especially in this day and age with, phones and mobile connectivity being a lot better than what it was obviously back in 1988 or 87, where it was
18
not existent. What did I say? 1888?
You did,
Oh.
and that fits. That fits.
1987. I mean, a lot has happened since then. But I'm giving this a solid 4 because I agree with everything you said completely and 100%. Presentation-wise, as far as the visual effects and everything, I thought everything was spot on. Nothing offended me. Nothing was egregious. I thought that a lot of the visual effects were practical. So, I mean, I'm sure they set an actual car on fire. And I'm sure that, when John Candy and Steve Martin were riding around in a car, it was one that they had previously set on fire, similarly to what happened to their vehicle. So, I'm giving the presentation a solid 4 because everything that was shown visually was not inappropriate. Everything was done smoothly. Everything was done within reason to illustrate the story, not go overboard and not fall short. I think it was very, very well done.
I can't even say it better. Presentation 4.
Cool. All right, and while we're on the subject, how about music and sound? What did what did your ears think of the movie?
I liked the soundtrack. By soundtrack, I mean the pop songs that they picked for the time. They were really well placed.
Yep.
But the score itself, the music, it wasn't. It was fine. The thing that we say a lot, nothing offended me.
Yeah.
I wasn't blown away though. So for music and sound, the score and all of that, I'm gonna just do middle of the road 3.
Interesting. Okay. I understand that and I respect that. I'm actually my music and sound score is actually a good bit higher because I really liked I kind of liked when the car was on fire and there was the little glass breaking sounds and everything. I thought those were kind of funny.
Yeah.
I really liked absolutely loved the score for certain things, like especially when Steve Martin was in the shower and that whole scene where, the shower, he rinsed himself off and then he grabbed the small towel, that little kind of gentle that little violin plucky bit was perfect for that. I couldn't imagine any more perfect scoring for that. I liked the music. I really liked the music and sound. The score had a lot to do with it. For me, it's actually a 4.5 for music and sound.
One more thing about the score.
Sure.
I think a really important scene was the fights that they had in the motel.
Yeah.
Right? Where Neil just excoriates Del. Like, oh, you're so pretentious. Your anecdotes have no point. Have a point. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
And that was powerful. And you could.
There was no music there, though.
There was no music when Steve Martin was delivering that.
Right.
The music popped up when Del defended himself.
Yes.
I did not like that.
Really?
I thought it would have been more powerful the other way around.
See, I disagree. See, I think, and especially when, I know what you mean. When Del was kind of, or when Steve Martin, when they were reflecting on this and they were kind of playing back those scenes in their mind, and there was that sort of, contemplative music in the background. I thought that was really beautiful and really well placed.
I agree that I liked what they did when Steve Martin was when Neil was thinking back on all of the cues. I like me. My wife likes me.
Are you sure you want to stay with a 3 on that? Because I feel like, I feel like I want to give you the option to take backsies.
I don't. The score just wasn't that impressive to me. Yeah. I think I want to stay at a 3 for this one.
You can. I mean, we still have 2 more scores to give, so you can. Your take backsies will remain available until the scores are locked in.
Once they're locked in, yeah. Let's move on to uniqueness, though.
Okay, so uniqueness. I think I'm up for this. And again, we don't do internet research. We don't do research or anything. For movies that have come out around this time or earlier. We don't look anything up. I cannot think of any other movie that has this many, tropes going for it as what this one does. Is a guy's trying to get home. He gets connected with this other guy, this random guy who he's paired up with throughout the entire time. The only thing that comes to mind is like the whole Odd Couple thing, like where there's the extremely neat person and the extremely, disorderly person. But even then, it's not, there's a little bit of that odd coupleness in this, in like the bathroom scenes where it shows John Candy's character, it's kind of implied that he was in there beforehand, so it's all messy and everything, but again, there's not a lot of implication that, there's not a lot of other things, that are not unique to this movie. So I was really torn, but I was ready to give this movie a 5 for uniqueness because it's really something we've not seen before. But because of the Odd Couple bit, I'm going to take off a little bit of points for that. I'm giving it a 4.5 for uniqueness because I think there really is not anything overly similar to this other than the Odd Couple, and that the storyline behind that is completely different. But I'm giving this a 4.5 for uniqueness.
4.5, interesting. I agree with a lot of what you've said. There are things that are similar to movies that have come before, but not a lot. The only movies I can really draw any lines of comparison to are Scrooged, and really only in the sense that Steve Martin eventually comes around and becomes a good person because of just the overwhelmingness of the warmth of John Candy's personality and just everything that they've been through together. Yeah. So not a little bit like Scrooge in that respect, but not a lot, just because it's the force of personality of John Candy that brings Neil around, not so much his bad deeds being shown to him and blah, 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 blah. Right. The other thing that I'm drawing a line to is National Lampoon's Vacation, and that's only because of the travel aspect of it. Okay. That's a really big travel movie. They're traveling a lot. Yeah. And there's a lot of travel tropes in that movie that there are some parallels to this in Planes and Trains, but not a lot, really.
When did National Lampoon's Vacation movie come out compared to this?
I think 83, 85 maybe? Was Chevy Chase the first National Lampoon's Vacation? I want to say 85. This was 98. This is
National Lampoon's Vacation was 20. Hold on, that's not right. Hold on, it didn't come. I might have put something wrong. Hang on a second.
Just type in vacation.
Well, hang on. I tried that. It didn't.
Chevy Chase.
Yeah,
it's usually the very tippy top.
83.
83. Okay, so earlier by like 5 years.
Yeah.
But so my point is that this movie is very, very unique, and it's a real big stretch for me to try to get other comparisons to other movies. They're there. Yeah. They're there, but my point is it's a stretch. This is a very unique movie. I'm rating it a solid 4.
Okay. I respect that, honestly. And I was thinking about doing a take backsies there to lower my uniqueness factor. I'm going to stand behind it.
I don't think you should. Yeah.
No, I'm going to stand behind it because I like where it's at. Where it's at. You are in the hot seat for the final category, my friend, the engagement factor. How glued to the screen were you on this viewing of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
Honestly, not very.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe it's because I've seen a lot of it before.
Sure. This is, and I'm sorry to cut you off. This is definitely a great background movie to have on.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's one that you don't have to watch completely. You don't have to be glued to the screen completely. You won't really miss much of a plot point because
what's happening.
Right,
It's very simple.
Right. The two main characters are after the same thing, and they want the same thing in the end. There's little details that come out throughout the whole experience, but in the end, they both want the same thing.
Yeah,
so they get into different things throughout their journey there, but they want the same thing in the end.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see how Neil is trying his hardest to get to Chicago, and the whole time Del is just kind of is go with the flow. Like, yeah, I'm trying to get to Chicago too, but why?
Right.
For what? What's in Chicago for you?
Right.
And it's implied that he wants to go and see his family, but not really.
Right.
But honestly, I love the movie, and I'm going to watch it again next year.
Same here.
But it's not as engaging as all that. It feels like a 3 to me.
A 3?
It feels like a 3 for engagement factor.
Okay. I respect that. I really do. I respect a lot of what you said, and is this a movie that's going to grab you to sit you on the edge of your seat wondering like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen next? What's going to happen between Del and Neil? No.
Probably not even the first time through.
Right. It's definitely not that kind of movie. It's not the kind of movie to have you on the edge of your seat. But it is the kind of movie to, at least for me, it makes me want to know what other things are these two going to get involved with that's either going to bring them more together or drive them more apart. Mm-hmm. I might even go so far as to call it a curiosity. And I've seen it a number of times, but watching it as an adult, as a 38-year-old man, every time I watch this movie, I see something new and I experience something new about it, and that's what I love about John Hughes movies specifically, because I can say the same thing about the Breakfast Club, even Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I almost every time I see it, I see something new or something that's kind of hit me in a specific way. And, whether or not I want to put this as part of engagement factor or put it someplace else, I don't know where else I could put it on this. It's going to be a 4 for me on engagement factor because I think this movie commands a level of attention and not necessarily an action movie, edge of your seat, kind of dying to know what's next, but sort of a where's this going to go type of attention, kind of a are these two going to wind up as friends or are they going to wind up as bitter enemies because they have to go through so many things just to get home for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I like it.
That being said, the numbers are all on paper. Do you want to take anything back or are the numbers in?
I thought about it. I thought about the music and score. I can't. I got to stand at a 3.
Sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. The only.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. Come on. I can't.
Okay. Are you sure?
One
more time.
I'm sure.
One more time.
The music and score wasn't that great for me. It wasn't. I wish it were. It's just not.
Are you sure? I'm giving you one more time. Trust me, and I wouldn't be asking you this if it wasn't for a really good reason. Are you sure you don't want to? Are you sure? Are you 100% positive sure?
Well, I'll give it a 3.01. A 3.1.
You're kidding. You're joking, right? You're joking.
I can't justify giving it more than a 3.5. I can't.
Okay, but a 3.5 is good. Are you going with 3.5?
I guess I am.
Okay. Cool. Am I doing any take-backsies? Let's just see. I don't think so because I feel really good about where my numbers are. I wish I could describe the look you're giving me right now.
Lock them in.
Okay. No. The numbers are locked in, ladies and gentlemen, for what is this? Planes, Trains, and Automobiles from 1987. Go a little something like this. Acting is 4.25. Script is 4. Presentation is 4. Music and sound is 4. Uniqueness 4.25. Engagement factor 3.5. For a grand total average of 4.0. It's exactly the same as Raging Bull. I am really glad that I'm glad it's ranked this high up in our list, because being below that just doesn't seem right for this movie. You good with that?
Yeah.
Normally you have some kind of reaction when I give you the numbers, but you were dead silent there.
Yeah. Well, it landed where it landed in the list.
All right. Well, it landed where it landed. Absolutely. So that being the case, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, 4.0 on our scale on the leaderboard at casualmovieclub.com. You can go there to see the other movies that we've done. You can also click on the Patreon button to join us in our as a patron to help contribute to our keeping the podcast going, keeping the lights on, so to speak. We would love to have you on there. The more you give, the more perks you get, and you can also help us pick movies to happen on future episodes. You can get access to the episodes a day early as well, so that is not without its merit, of course. You can also see all the different places we have our podcast, so think places like iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Radio Public. The links are on the very bottom of every page on casualmovieclub.com. And Brian, what do we have in store for next week?
Next week, we are going to be watching a little old movie called The Santa Claus.
That's right.
Starring Tim Allen.
Tim Allen, the man, the myth, the legend. I like that movie, and I'm looking forward to watching that with you.
Only seen it a couple times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like literally 2 times.
Oh, perfect. Nice. So that'll be a fun one. So what do you say until then we cut everybody loose?
Cut loose, foot loose. Oh, that was awful. Can you cut that out?
No. Here we go.